Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly beautiful, mystical tale straight from the deep Himalayas. It's a story that asks a really profound question. What is the actual difference between just going through the motions of a ritual and possessing true, unwavering devotion? Whether you consider yourself deeply spiritual or you're just someone who loves a powerful story about human nature, this one has some absolutely incredible insights. So let's just jump right in. True devotion has no selfishness, only faith and service. Right off the bat, this central theme really anchors the whole narrative we're looking at today. It sets this beautifully reverent tone, doesn't it? Because, well, we often think of devotion as, what we ask for or the grand gestures we make. But this story, it completely flips that on its head. It asks us to consider that real faith is actually entirely selfless. So keep that thought in the back of your mind as we journey into this ancient world.
Section 1. Shivpur Village and Unwavering Faith.
To kick things off, imagine a time long ago, nestled high up in the mountains. There was this small, ancient Himalayan village named Shivpur, and it was famous for its immense faith in Lord Shiva. Now, this is where we meet the two main guys in our tale. First up, we have Madhav. He's a poor young man, no land, no wealth, just the absolute basics. But his faith, it is rock solid. Every single morning, he's out there gathering flowers from the forest and drawing water from the river, just to offer at the local temple. But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Dhanraj. He is literally the wealthiest man in the village. He's got the big house, his own private well, and, as we're going to see, a seriously greedy heart. He's the kind of guy who demands money even for basic survival needs. So before the sun even peeked over the horizon, Madhav would already be at the temple, and his prayer was so incredibly simple. He'd say, "O Bholanath, I only have my faith. Please accept it. Keep everyone in my village happy." That's it. He openly admits he has no gold, no silver, no fancy offerings. But here is the absolute kicker. He never, ever asks for a single thing for himself. Even though he's living in literal poverty, his one and only request to the divine is for the happiness and well-being of his entire village.
Section 2. Crisis of Drought and Greed.
Now, every great story needs a turning point, right? And here, the crisis ramps up relentlessly. In week 1, the rains just fail to show up. Okay, slightly worrying. But by week 3, those once roaring mountain rivers, they dwindle down into mere trickles. Fast forward to month 1, and it gets scary. The communal ponds and village wells are completely bone dry. And then, by month 2, the ultimate disaster hits. The farmers' crops just completely dry up and wither away. The whole village is thrown into absolute despair. And naturally, people start flocking to the temple in a total panic, just desperate for some kind of divine intervention. And it's as the crisis deepens that people's true colors really start to show. Then Raj, our wealthy guy, actually starts mocking the villagers for praying. When Madhav calmly suggests that, hey, maybe God is just testing them and they shouldn't lose hope, then Raj literally laughs in his face. He arrogantly snaps, "Faith doesn't bring water to the fields, Madhav." It's such a brilliant illustration of this clash between cold, material cynicism and quiet, unwavering spiritual trust. But Madhav, he doesn't even argue. He just looks toward the temple and quietly reaffirms his trust in Mahadev.
Section 3. Mahadev's 2 Difficult Tests.
People always say that it's only when things hit rock bottom that your true faith is actually tested. And for our humble guy, Madhav, the ultimate spiritual exam begins on this one quiet, really dark evening. Night has fallen, and Madhav is sitting all alone in the temple, just quietly chanting mantras. Suddenly, a voice calls out from the shadows. This elderly, exhausted-looking sage arrives at the temple doors, and he's begging for just a tiny sip of water. Now, think back to that drought timeline we just talked about. Water is practically non-existent. In fact, Madhav has literally one single vessel of water left to his name, and it's the exact water he had painstakingly saved up as his sacred offering to Lord Shiva. I really want you to pause for a second and just put yourself in Madhav's shoes here. What would you actually do? I mean, on one hand, you have your absolute highest religious duty, offering this hard-earned water to the deity you worship every single day of your life. But on the other hand, a fellow human being is standing right in front of you, literally suffering from thirst. Do you stick to the ritual, or do you prioritize the person? Well, here is Madhav's profound realization. He really doesn't hesitate for long. He takes his only vessel of water and hands it straight to the old sage. When the sage smiles and asks him, "Why did you just give away God's offering?"
Madhav just says, if Mahadev is pleased by giving water to a thirsty person, then what greater worship could there be for me? He just inherently gets it. He recognizes that the divine actually resides within every living being. By serving this thirsty man, he realizes he is, in fact, directly serving God. The sage just touches Madhav's head, mysteriously whispers that his test isn't over just yet, and completely vanishes into the night. Let's quickly shift gears and see what Dhanraj is up to in the village during this exact same crisis. Remember, Dhanraj has that private well, and it actually still has a little bit of water left in it. But instead of sharing it, he is hoarding the whole thing and aggressively demanding money from his desperate neighbors. A poor old woman comes up to him, practically begging for just a few drops for her thirsty child, and explains she has absolutely no money. And Dhanraj? He flat out turns her away. It is just a brutal, stark contrast to Madhav's selflessness. Actually, Madhav happens to arrive right at that moment and immediately gives the old woman his own remaining water, which just prompts Dhanraj to mockingly ask him, "How long can you keep giving your water away like that?" Fast forward to that very same night. The mysterious old sage returns to the temple to give Madhav his second and honestly, probably his greatest test. The sage looks right at him and says he can grant him literally any boon he desires. Anything at all. He explicitly offers Madhav immense, limitless personal wealth. So here's the million-dollar question. What does a man who has lived in grinding everyday poverty his entire life choose when he's suddenly offered all the riches in the world? Madhav closes his eyes, thinks for just a moment, and delivers an answer that completely redefines what it means to have a pure heart. He says, "Wealth will only come to my house, Baba, but rain will save the whole village." He tells the sage that his only wish is for the crops to grow again and for no poor person to ever have to go to sleep hungry. Think about that. Even when he is literally handed the keys to a limitless personal fortune, his mind just never strays from the well-being of his community. Incredible. Section 4, Divine Vision and Miracle. Following that incredibly selfless choice, the story ramps up to this breathtaking climax. The subtle tests are officially over, and the true identity of the old sage is about to be revealed. Out of nowhere, this blinding, brilliant light completely fills the temple. Madhav has to squeeze his eyes shut against the glare, and when he finally opens them, the frail old sage is totally gone. Standing right there in his place is the awe-inspiring divine form of Mahadev himself. The source material describes this vision so vividly. You've got the crescent moon resting in his matted hair, that powerful third eye glowing right on his forehead, a massive serpent coiled majestically around his neck, and the mighty Trishul, his trident, grasped firmly in his hand. Madhav literally falls to his knees in tears, just completely overwhelmed that the Lord of Lords has revealed himself. Mahadev looks down at a trembling Madhav and delivers what is arguably the most powerful message of this entire explainer. He says, "I did not see your worship. I saw your heart. You gave your share of water to a thirsty man. You asked for the village's prosperity instead of wealth. This is true devotion." Guys, this just completely strips away the mechanics of rituals. God wasn't up there counting the flowers or measuring out the exact ounces of water. God was measuring the intent and the pure love behind those actions.
Section 5, True Devotion and Final Lesson.
So Mahadev declares that anyone who holds that kind of love for others in their heart will always have his grace. And with that, he strikes the solid ground with his mighty Trishul, setting off a miracle that literally changes Shivpur forever. The exact second the Trishul hits the earth, this massive stream of fresh water just bursts out right outside the temple. But Mahadev gives Madhav a warning. He says this water belongs to everyone. Never let it become the property of just one person. And then, the next morning, the miracle just explodes in scale. By minute 1, dark, heavy rain clouds start gathering in that previously empty sky. Minute 2 hits, and the first miraculous drop of rain finally strikes the dry earth. Give it 10 minutes, and a heavy torrential rain is just pouring down. Within an hour, the ponds are overflowing, the withered fields are drinking it all in, and new life joyously returns to this completely drought-stricken village. Now, you're probably wondering, what about Dhanraj? Well, this absolute miracle humbles him to his core. Seeing the immense grace given to this selfless Madhav, Dhanraj rushes straight to the temple, his ego completely shattered. He tries to apologize to Madhav, but Madhav just gently points him toward the Shivalinga, telling him to apologize to God instead. So there's Dhanraj, kneeling down in tears, confessing his sheer arrogance. He says, "Today I understood that a person's heart is bigger than their wealth. It's honestly a really beautiful moment. It shows us that divine grace has the power to melt even the most hardened, greedy hearts out there. This whole event leaves a massive lasting impact on how the village of Shivpur actually operates. They sit down and institute these new community rules based on everything they just learned. Step 1, from now on, any water that comes into the village is prioritized strictly for those who need it most. Step 2, Dharnraj, who is a completely changed man by the way, permanently opens up his private well to every single person in the village. And step 3, which is really the most important daily practice of all, keep love for others in your heart. Madhav, he kept praying every single day, but his prayers shifted. He just asked God to keep that love alive within him. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The source material leaves us with this crystal clear, incredibly profound lesson. Service is the greatest worship. The divine doesn't actually need us to build grand palaces, give massive donations, or perform super complex, empty rituals. What is required is actually remarkably simple, even if it's really difficult to maintain day in and day out. Just a true, pure heart and a genuine, selfless love for the people around you. And that brings us to the end of our story today. It leaves us with a very real, very challenging question to ask ourselves. Is your devotion focused on empty rituals, or is it focused on selfless service and love for those around you? Honestly, it's something we can all reflect on, totally regardless of what our specific beliefs might be. If this explainer resonated with you today, maybe take a quick moment to reflect on how you can bring just a little bit more of Madhav's selflessness into your own community. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and as always, keep seeking knowledge.